Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com. We're here today, pretty exciting. It's a new year and we're actually looking at a new year of skis, that being 2019 skis. So we've done quite a few 2018 ski reviews over about the past year, about a full year since we've been doing 2018 reviews. And you know, we're getting really close to the major ski industry trade shows and on-snow demos and the time of year when companies are releasing next year's skis, or at least releasing information about them. So you're going to see us doing a lot more 2019 ski reviews from here on out. We might fit a few 2018 in there still, but we are going to focus mostly on 2019 from here. This is a little bit unique compared to what I was just describing in terms of companies releasing information. Nordica has actually released the actual 2019 ski. So we'll kind of jump right into it here. This is the 2019 Nordica Enforcer 110 review. So brand new ski for 2018. Let's look at the line really quickly here. This is the 2018 Enforcer 110 graphic. This is the 2018 Enforcer 100, that's the Enforcer 93, and that's the Enforcer Pro. So before this year, the Enforcer collection was just the 100 and the 93. It's now doubled in size. It's now 4 models, from 93 underfoot all the way up to 115 underfoot in the Pro. And a little bit different when we start getting into the 110 and the Pro. Which is why we wanted to do this review and kind of talk about some of the differences in the ski. So, as I described in the article, you can kind of think of the Enforcer 110 as if Nordica took the Enforcer 100 and the now outdated Patron powder ski and kind of combined them. Combined their design elements and kind of just mashed them together, or the ideas of them together. And the result is this Enforcer 110. So construction-wise, it's a slightly lighter wood core. There's beech and poplar in it, just like the Enforcer 100 and the 93, but there's also balsa. So there's quite a bit of balsa in that wood core, which is a lighter weight material and slightly softer flexing. Flex of these skis is really similar to the Enforcer 100, which we'll get to. But balsa is a little bit softer of a material and definitely lighter. That core is sandwiched between 2 sheets of metal, just like the Enforcer 100 and the 93. So largely construction is about the same. The only difference being that Energy 2 Ti balsa core, which is slightly different than the 100 and the 93. Shape-wise, there's some similarities and there's some differences. Tip shape is pretty much the same. There might be a tiny bit more tip rocker in terms of length on the 110, but it's largely the same. There is a little bit more rise in the tail, which is something I want to show you visually. You know, somewhat of an argument to be made there whether you call that longer tail rocker or just more of a twin tip shape. In the article, I refer to it as more tail rocker, which I think is the best way to think of it in terms of performance. If you can remember what that tail looks like when we look at the Enforcer 100, a little bit less rise out of that tail. Clearly it's not a twin tip at all, the Enforcer 100, where you could make the argument that the 110 is a twin tip, but it's longer tail rocker, and it rises more. So it does change the ski quite a bit, which we'll get to when we talk about performance. Other than that, the shapes are actually really similar. So the rocker profile is different, but the side cut is basically exactly the same. So if you kind of take the side cut across lengths of all these skis, they are the same. So the Enforcer 110 and a 185 gets an 18.5 meter turn, and the same is true for all enforcers. The 100, 18.5, the 93, 18.5. So it's, you know, we talk about the enforcers a lot, and something that has made them, or kind of set them apart from other skis is that they have a somewhat shorter turn radius than a lot of skis in this category. You know, burly all-mountain skis with 2 sheets of metal, which is part of what makes them so fun. So let's talk about performance and where this ski dives into the line. Like I said, this is the 2019 graphic, this is the 2018 graphic, this is the 191, which I've skied quite a bit over the past few weeks. I've also skied the 185 in the new graphic, so starting to get a really good sense of how the ski feels, and kind of what it's great at, and stuff like that. So I'll start with Groomers, which I did in the article as well. If you've skied an Enforcer 100, let me step back a little bit. This ski's 110 underfoot, which traditionally is really wide for a groomer ski. But in today's day and age, there are a lot of skiers that want to ski that wide for their daily ski. A lot of skiers out west, they ski something like that all the time. So I personally, when I see a ski that's 110 underfoot, I expect it to be decent on Groomers. On Groomers, if you've skied an Enforcer 100, you largely know what this is going to feel like. It really is about the same. The tail shape is a little different, which I'll get to, but in a carving turn, you can make nice, short, radius, rounded turns. It kind of depends on skier input. The tips and the tails on the 110 are softer than the 100, so I personally found that I could manipulate carving turn shape a little bit easier, because you can get the ski to flex into this shorter turn shape. You can still, just like the Enforcer, one of the things I love about the Enforcer is that you don't have to give it a ton of skier input, and you can just kind of ride the ski, and it's really stable and quiet and still has a powerful feel. So for arcing bigger radius turns, like Super G style turns, you just don't put as much input into it. But I thought the 110 was awesome. Like you can really load up the ski and you can feel the tips and the tails flex a little bit more than the 100, which really changes your turn shape, and you can link some for a ski for a 191 ski that's 110 underfoot. Like you can link really short radius carving turns on Groomers, which I think is a blast, and kind of a testament to the fact that you could ski this as your everyday ski. We probably wouldn't do it here in Stowe, but like I said, out west it could easily be a daily driver ski. We talk a lot about the Enforcer 100 being forgiving for having 2 sheets of metal in it. I think the same is true with the 110. And maybe even slightly more so. That different tail shape, you know, on the Enforcer 100, I think it's pretty easy to release the tail edge and get it to pivot. I think it's even easier on the 110. I think the balsa goes into that a little bit too. I do feel like it has a slightly softer flex, especially in the tips and tails, so you can release the tail edge really easily. I felt that especially on the 185. The 191's a little long for me, but the 185 was really easy to pivot, get the back of the ski to wash around. And I did ski the 191 in some tight trees and was able to do that as well. And I think that's a good transition to off Groomers, which, you know, it's 110 underfoot. I think that's really the focus of the ski. Quickness was again what surprised me most about this ski. I think it's easy to get on a ski this big with 2 sheets of metal and just know that it's gonna be plenty of ski. So when I pointed the ski down the fall line over the chopped up snow conditions, it stays really quiet, really damp, really confidence inspiring for me personally as a ski to ski fast on through variable snow conditions or soft snow conditions, but its quickness really surprised me. You know, off-piste you're not really doing the same kind of manipulating carving turn shape, but you definitely are releasing that tail edge and pivoting the ski kind of making shorter, almost mogul-inspired turns on it. So I was impressed by its ability to do that in trees. Obviously, there are lighter, quicker skis out there. You know, the Rossi Soul 7 comes to mind. It's drastically lighter swing weight, but it doesn't have that same damp feel. So there's a toss-up there, and it comes down to personal preference, whether you want a little more ski and are okay with it being a little heavier and a little harder to throw around. But for a ski with 2 sheets of metal, I think it's outrageously easy to maneuver. Like I said, I took the 191 and skied some tight trees, and at first I was really intimidated, and if you've ever skied tight trees on a ski that's too big or too powerful, you know how scary and kind of nerve-wracking it can be. But just after a couple turns, I realized that it wasn't going to be nearly as challenging as I thought. So really fun in kind of tighter terrain. And then I think the highlight of this ski, and something I touched on already, is its ability to just handle anything you point it towards. So, you know, we've read some other reviews and some other feedback on this ski, and I agree with some other reviews out there that there are stronger, burlier skis out there, but this is plenty for like 99% of skiers. I mean, if you're a competitive big mountain athlete, sure, maybe you want something a little stiffer, maybe a stiffer tail. The Enforcer Pro is stiffer, which I'll get to at the very end of this review. But I think it's plenty of ski for, you know, say you're skiing out west and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and everything's been tracked out. You can still just send it and make big arcing turns. The ski stays nice and quiet. One of the complaints of the Patron, you know, a lot of people really like the Patron, but the tips kind of did this flat, slow wobble thing. And every once in a while that was kind of nerve-wracking because it felt like the tip might catch or dive. It stays way quieter on the 110. So I think that's a big improvement. And then I really like the way it feels in soft snow. I think 110 is, you know, it's plenty wide enough for a powder ski. There are wider, crazier skis out there for sure. But especially here in Stowe, 110 is plenty. And we've gotten to ski it on some powder days, and what I really like about it is the tip stays on the surface of soft snow. So like from the N up, we'll say, never dives. But from the N back, especially between this portion of the ski, you can feel the difference in how much it's sinking into the snow, and you can really use that to control your speed. So I found that depending on how I was weighting the ski, I could get the tip, because it's relatively straight through the tip, it sinks through the snow in a really predictable way. So if you weight the front of the ski a little bit more, you'll get it to sink in a little bit. And I was using that to kind of control speed, as opposed to throwing the ski sideways, getting it back straight, throwing it sideways, getting it back straight. I thought I could pressure it a little bit differently and get it to kind of dump speed without losing my edge, so to speak. So yeah, we talked a little bit at the end of the article about who we think it's best for. And I would say if you've skied an Enforcer 100 and you like that feel, you're going to like the 110. Largely, it has a very similar feel. And then I think there will be some new skiers who maybe didn't want to get an Enforcer 100. I think the obvious thing to bring up is skiers who want more of like a playful freeride ski. This 110, it pretty much is a twin tip, so you could mount it a little further forward from the traditional point and make it kind of a backcountry freestyle or backcountry freeride ski. I think that's easily justifiable on this ski. So, you know, a touch more playful than the 100, but largely the same feel, the same animal. It definitely belongs in the Enforcer line. Definitely carries along that Enforcer heritage of being a strong, powerful ski that's impressively forgiving, I think is a key thing to note about the Enforcer. Quickly, let's touch on the Pro. The Pro is really basically the same ski. but it's 5 millimeters wider. And what they did is the core, the wood core is actually thicker. So the metal's not thicker. The wood core itself is thicker. We'll do a little flex comparison. I think the Pro is noticeably the stiffest, and when you're skiing it, it's also noticeably the stiffest. I was able to go, so you can see the 110 has a little bit softer flex there. I was able to go straight from a 110 to a Pro and then back to a 110, which was really fun, and definitely a stiffer flex in the Pro. So if that's what you're after, if you want the biggest, burliest ski, kind of going back to that, maybe you're a competition big mountain skier, that's slightly more appropriate for that, but largely the same. An Enforcer Pro 191 is really very similar to the 110 191, just a little bit stiffer. So I found not quite as easy to manipulate. Carving turn shape would be kind of a good example of where that changes. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions about these skis. They've already become very popular. This graphic's going to be sold out really soon. Probably a lot of your local shops don't have them anymore. We do have a few pairs left, so if you want the green, pick one up before you can. And then this is the 2018 graphic, which I think Nordica's graphics for 2019, we've seen a lot of their skis. They did a really good job. I personally think the neon green is cool, and I was a little bit disappointed to see it go away, but once I saw this ski within the whole collection, it looks really cool. So there you go, 2019 Enforcer 110. As usual, let us know if you have any questions or comments, and we will continue rolling out these 2019 ski reviews and equipment reviews as we can. And yeah, we will see you guys on the slopes.